If you're over the age of 50, your fitness plan needs to look differently. Everyone, my name is Ed Dubu, physical therapist out of Bellingham, Washington, Integrated Physical Therapy. I am 52 years old, so I know what I'm talking about in terms of having to switch and adjust our exercise routine as we get older. So I've been physical my whole life and never been terribly strong, I'll be honest, but I've tried to stay as active as I can. I've got these long arms, long legs, so it makes the pull-up test and the bench press max, I'm not going to impress anybody with those numbers, but that's not the point. The point is now at 52, I'm just trying to stay as healthy and as viable as I can for the next 30, maybe even 40 years of my life so that I can do the things that I want to do at 82, so I got to start looking at things now and changing things at the age of 52 to do that. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 different functional movements that you may not be able to do all 7, but try to maintain or improve on the best you can going forward. All right, let's get started. First up is one of my favorites, and this is the deep squat. Deep squatting is nice because it gives us an idea of our range of motion and flexibility in the low back, hips, knees, and ankles. For many people, they're not able to squat all the way down without their heels coming up, and that usually is a loss of ankle dorsiflexion or tightness in the ankles. So in this example now I have a 2x4 underneath there. So I've elevated my heels a little bit. So now if you can sink down further into your squat with the 2x4, then it means you need to work a little bit on your ankle mobility, specifically into dorsiflexion. The next one is going to get people kind of riled up, but basically it's a toe squat. And I'm up on my toes first, and then I squat down. And yes, my knees shoot way out over my toes, so please don't comment on this, I understand that. But that's actually a little bit overblown. The knees can come over the toes a little bit without your knees exploding and the world coming to an end. The toe squat's nice because it gives you an idea of balance, flexibility, and strength. Notice I don't have a lot of weight. It's just a mobility exercise. Next we have a inline lunge. And now you notice too, yes, my knee comes a little bit over the toes, but that's going to be okay. Think about going downstairs. You can't really go downstairs without your knees shooting over your toes. You want to try to keep your legs as straight as you can, and a narrow base of support's a little bit harder. So initially you might have to go a little bit wider, but you want to try to come as narrow as you can. Brings a little bit of balance into it as well. Next we have more balance work, and here's a 2x4, and I'm just practicing basically walking on that 2x4 forward and backward. Play with the position of your arms. Obviously if your arms are out to your side, it's a little bit easier. Down by your hips, a little bit harder. And the idea is just to challenge yourself safely without having to worry about falling and getting hurt. If you want to go next level, turn your head to one side as you're walking forward and backwards as well. Everyone should have a bar somewhere. Now this is a really nice bar. Thank you, Maria and Jeffrey. But you can put one in your garage, you can put one over the door, but everyone needs to have it. There's multiple things that you can do. Number one, you notice here that my feet are on the ground. And so if you're a patient of mine, I've talked a lot about being able to just slowly kind of unweight yourself and just kind of hang if you can. Now maybe you can't even do a full hang, but it's a great way, once again, if you can hang from a bar, to give you an idea about grip strength, shoulder range of motion, thoracic spine or rib cage mobility. And then as you start to get stronger, maybe what you can do is you can lift up one leg, and then maybe you can just do a hang here. Now remember, when you're hanging, you want to try to keep your scapula in your back pocket. And what that'll do is it'll kind of help protect that shoulder a little bit. And see if you can do a 1 to 2 minute bar hang. Once you can do a two-handed bar hang for a minute or two, then see if you can switch to a one-handed hang. Your goal on this one should be 10-15 seconds, and then just work off of it. Just try to get stronger. Once again, good grip strength, scapula in the back pocket, and you're just going to hang and see how you do. And as you get stronger, try to increase the time. You want to go next level, work on doing pull-ups. This is a thick band here. You bring it down. One way to put it here is right on my knee. And then I'm going to have here, same thing, and I'm going to pull up. Back down.
Once you get stronger with the band, you can go lighter and lighter, and then eventually progress to see, if you can do a handful of pull-ups with good form. Shoulder pass-throughs are another good way to make sure you've got good shoulder mobility. So this is just a stick, PVC pipe, whatever you have. Shrug your shoulders a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier, and try to come all the way through. Once again, this gives me an idea of how well your shoulder is functioning. Obviously, if you've got shoulder dysfunction, that you're going to have to take care of the old injury first. Once you can do that, we're going to do something called an overhead squat.
When I first started working on the overhead squat, it was surprisingly difficult for me to do. And as you can see here, it is definitely not perfect form. You'll notice too, when I get to the bottom of my squat, my low back tends to round. I lose the ability to keep my back flat. Also too, the bar is way too far back if I was trying to overhead press any weight. So even though it's not perfect, and I understand that, but I'm also just focusing on the mobility and trying to keep whatever imperfect overhead squat form I have, knowing that I'll never be able to really press a lot of weight, but I'm more interested in keeping the movement viable.
When I have a client that comes in that's had any type of lower back issue, I teach them how to bend forward with a hip hinge to reduce the stress on your spine. So for example, if I'm here and I want to bend forward to get something down here, I want you to notice how rounded my spine becomes. Now, although this isn't painful for me, this isn't doing my spine any favors over the long run. Once or twice is fine, but over a lifetime, we've got tens of thousands of bends, and eventually the back's going to give out. A better way to do that is to drive the hips back. Drive the hips back. Now I can still get down to that level, but you'll notice my back is nice and flat. How do we train that? 2 contact points. Your tailbone and the back of the head. If I bend correctly, I'm going to keep both of those contact points throughout the bend. Now notice my knees are bent, but then the rest of the motion is coming by driving my hips back. If I bend in correctly, the moment I get it all from my low back, I lose that contact point. So train the hip hinge. Use the hip hinge for every time you're bending forward, doing dishes, washing your face, brushing your teeth. Save your back. Once you start getting used to the hip hinge and it becomes easier, then train it to become stronger. So in this example here, this is a 10-pound weight. Down and back up. My back is nice and flat. I'm driving my hips back and I'm coming up again. Remember, one of our goals as we age is to continue to have a high level of mobility. And so we have to superimpose some of these motions. Some of them may be difficult, but do the best you can with them. All right, if you have any questions, please leave them down below. If you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ding, turn on your notification so that you never miss another one of our videos.